Have you ever felt trapped in an exhausting cycle, striving to be a better version of yourself, to be liked, to succeed, to find happiness? Yet the harder you try, the more drained you feel. Have you wondered why positive affirmations, inspiring quotes, or live with passion books fall flat when you're grappling with disappointment, uncertainty, or a world that doesn't bend to your will? The truth is, not every problem is solved with encouragement. Some things demand raw confrontation. Some truths, though harsh, must be embraced to spark real change. Not through rosy motivation, but through clear-eyed, proactive ownership of yourself. This video isn't for those seeking an easy path. It's for those brave enough to look inward, strong enough to face uncomfortable truths, and determined to transform from the roots. In this journey, we'll explore 12 brutal but essential truths. If you can accept them, you'll live lighter, deeper, and truly happier. Each truth is a wake-up slap, but also a door to an authentic, free life. If you're ready, let's begin. And if this resonates, hit subscribe to stay with us for more videos, to live more consciously each day. Number 1, you're not that important. One of the first and hardest truths to swallow for a happier life is this: you're not as important as you think. It sounds harsh, like a put-down, but it's not. It's liberating. When you truly grasp this, you'll live lighter. You'll stop feeling the pressure to be extraordinary, imagining all eyes are on you, or playing a perfect role in a movie no one's watching as closely as you believe. The reality is, most people don't think about you as much as you assume. They're busy with their own lives, problems, and fears, preoccupied with their own image. A stranger you pass might glance at you and forget you instantly. A social media post you agonized over for hours might get a 2-second scroll or go unread. A mistake you made in a meeting that you think everyone will remember forever, they likely forgot it as they left the room. Yet in your mind, you amplify everything, believing others are analyzing, judging, or fixating on your every move. This exhausts you as you try to live for the gaze of a crowd that's mostly indifferent. This isn't a call to shrink or dismiss others. It's a reminder to live truer to yourself. When you realize you're not the center of the universe, you shed the need to prove yourself. You'll dare to do what you believe is right, even if misunderstood. You'll say no when needed, try new things, take risks, because others' attention doesn't linger long enough to control your life. More importantly, you'll step back from your ego, stop seeing yourself as the victim in every story, and view the world with more compassion and less personalization. The I'm the center mindset makes you needlessly vulnerable. If someone doesn't reply to your text right away, you think they hate you. If they decline an invite, you assume they're avoiding you. If you're left out of a project, you feel undervalued. But people have their own reasons: fatigue, family issues, other priorities. You're not the focal point of their schedule. This doesn't mean you're unimportant. It means everyone navigates their own world just as you do. Accepting you're not more special than others is the first step to humility, maturity, and less pressure. It builds genuine confidence, not from others' approval, but from self-understanding. When you don't need constant validation, you'll pursue what truly matters, not for show or praise, but because it's right. That's when you live deeper, stronger, freer. Take the gym. If you think everyone's watching, you'll feel awkward or insecure. But realizing they're focused on their own workout frees you from imagined fears, letting you focus on why you're there. This applies to work, studies, relationships, everywhere. When you stop placing yourself center stage, you'll have more energy to truly live. If this resonates, hit like as a reminder. I don't need to be the center. I just need to be true to myself. Share in a comment a moment when you thought others were fixated on you, only to realize they weren't. And to keep learning to live lighter and freer through hard but necessary truths, subscribe for the next parts. Life doesn't demand you be noticed. It asks you to be awake and live your role with purpose. Number 2, not everyone is going to like you. One of the harshest truths many struggle with their whole lives is this: not everyone will like you. No matter how kind, charming, or hardworking you are, some people will dislike you, misunderstand you, envy you, or distance themselves from you. This doesn't mean you're wrong or need to change to please them. It simply means you're human, and humans clash, differ, and carry unbridgeable gaps no logic can fully resolve. We grow up believing that if we're kind, sincere, and decent, everyone will cherish us. When we face the opposite, misunderstandings, gossip, or cold shoulders, we doubt our worth. We ask, am I not good enough? What did I do wrong? Why don't they like me? But the truth is, you can do everything right and still not win someone's favor. People view the world through their own lenses, shaped by experiences, biases, and emotions you can't control. They might dislike you because you remind them of someone who hurt them, envy your freedom, or reflect a truth they're not ready to face. No reasoning can shift their feelings toward you. The danger lies in trying to be universally liked. In doing so, you erode yourself bit by bit. You'll stay silent when you should speak, nod when you should say no, or pretend you're fine when you're not. You'll mold yourself to fit others' glances, judgments, or expectations. People who don't truly know or care about your inner self. Eventually, you'll lose sight of who you are, becoming a constantly edited version crafted for approval. Yet, no matter how well you perform, someone will still disapprove. The harder you try, the more some resent you, as your effort highlights their insecurities. Stoics teach that your goal isn't universal approval, but living true to your reason and values. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you're honest, kind, just, that's your duty. Don't worry about others' thoughts. Ask if you're living rightly. When you live by inner standards, you're unshaken by others' love, hate, praise, or criticism. You can't control their emotions, only your actions. When you live authentically, others' acceptance becomes a bonus, not a necessity you chase. In reality, those who live authentically often face resistance. They don't shy from hard truths, blend into crowds, or please others for peace. Yet they leave the deepest impact through honesty and clarity. They don't perform or chase trends. They live consistently with principle. Naturally, they attract those who value substance, not just those seeking comfort. You don't need the world to like you. You need the courage to face rejection without fear. True friends don't demand you change to suit them. Someone who dislikes you for being authentic was never worth keeping. Being disliked doesn't mean you must change. It means you're shedding a shell to live as your true self. If this resonates, hit like as a quiet vow. I don't need everyone's approval. I need to be myself. Share in a comment a time you felt rejected despite doing no wrong, and what you learned. To keep building resilience through tough but vital truths, subscribe for the next parts. Sometimes the first step to happiness is to stop chasing love and start embracing yourself. Number 3, you are not defined by what you have. In today's society, human worth is often measured by possessions, big house or small, luxury car, or basic bank account digits or social media followers. These have become common yardsticks for success and status. This creates a warped belief. Who you are and your value hinge on what you own. This illusion inflicts deep harm. When you tie your identity to external things, you're trapped in a vicious cycle. The more you have, the more you fear losing. The more you gain, the more you dread being outdone. And when you lose, you feel you've lost yourself. Stoics didn't deny the utility of wealth, fame, or status, but they called these externals. Things that come and go with life's flow. You shouldn't build your entire worth on such shaky ground. Epictetus, once a slave with nothing but his inner freedom, became one of history's greatest philosophers. He taught, losing external things doesn't mean losing yourself, but losing integrity, reason, or courage. That's true loss. You're not your car, phone, address, or job title. You're how you face hardship, how you uphold principles unseen, how you respond to misunderstanding, rejection, or misjudgment. The problem is society's relentless message. You need more to be respected, achievements to be validated. Without a house, impressive income, or clear status, you're nothing. So you run, compare, and live not to be enough, but to be better. Yet the more you chase material proof, the emptier you feel. Deep down you know, what you wear or wield only fools others' eyes, never filling the insecurity that haunts you at night. True freedom isn't owning everything, it's being owned by nothing. When you realize your value isn't in possessions, you live calmer. You don't need to flaunt, fear falling behind, or wear masks. You can sit in a modest cafe and feel whole, wear old clothes and walk with unforced confidence. The things that truly define you, unbuyable, unlosable, unfakeable, endure. Imagine losing it all: money, job, image. What remains? If you still have resilience, integrity, the ability to start anew, you're intact. But if you feel empty, panicked, or broken without those things, you fused yourself to them too long. Lasting happiness never comes from having more, but from knowing you're not your possessions. To practice this right, who am I without this job? Without wealth? Without followers? If the answers stun you, it's a signal to rebuild your worth internally, through discipline, honesty, and staying steady without applause. When you do, you'll stop living in fear, controlled by material things or others' gazes, feeling worthy without external props. If this truth makes you rethink your life, hit like to commit. I won't let possessions define me. Share in a comment a moment you chased having and what helped you reclaim yourself. To keep reconnecting with true worth, subscribe for the next parts, where you learn to live stronger, not for what you have, but for who you're becoming. Number 4, you always have a choice. One of the illusions that leaves people feeling powerless and lost is the belief they have no choice, that circumstances have backed them into a corner, that life, work, relationships, or the past have slammed the door shut. But the truth is, you always have a choice. Not every choice is pleasant or painless, but a choice always exists. And that choice, no matter how small, is the starting point to reclaim control over your life. Sometimes you feel trapped in a dull job, a toxic relationship, or an ill-fitting environment. You tell yourself, I can't do anything else. I have to endure. I have no choice. But you're confusing two things: disliking your current options and having no options. You may not want to leave your comfort zone, face temporary loss, or embrace the uncertainty of change. But that doesn't mean you're bound. You can still choose to walk away, say no, start over, or at least shift how you respond. That's the power you often overlook, the power of conscious choice. Stoics believed humans aren't free in their circumstances, but are always free in how they respond to them. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor navigating wars, rebellions, and personal loss, wrote, "The only thing I truly own is how I choose to see the world." You may not pick what happens today, but you can choose how to interpret it, learn from pain, keep moving despite opposition, or do what's right even if no one notices. The problem is, many want choices without costs. They want to escape a bad job but not risk a steady paycheck. They want out of an unhealthy relationship but fear loneliness. They want to pursue a passion but dread starting from scratch. So they stay, convincing themselves, I have no choice. That's not true. It's an unconscious choice rooted in fear, procrastination, or prioritizing short-term comfort over long-term growth. By refusing to choose, you pay the price of lingering helplessness. Accepting you always have a choice comes with a tough reality. You can't blame others. When you see that you chose to stay silent, or not change, you must own the consequences. That's the cost of freedom, but also the bedrock of maturity. Only by taking full responsibility for your choices can you truly reshape your life. Blaming others, circumstances, or fate severs your connection to your own power. To practice this, become aware of the choices you make daily. When you complain about work, ask, what am I choosing? To stay or to seek solutions? When you feel controlled by others, ask, am I choosing silence or to speak up? When life feels aimless, ask, am I choosing to live as a victim or as someone proactive? These questions put you back in the driver's seat, reminding you that you're not being dragged, you're steering, and need only to reclaim conscious choice. You don't need grand decisions right away. Sometimes choosing to tweak a small habit, reaction, or perspective opens new doors. Choose to mute phone notifications for more reading time. Choose to wake up 30 minutes earlier for a clearer start. Choose not to reply to negative messages. Choose to write goals instead of lamenting a lack of direction. Small, consistent choices reshape your life. If this resonates with your current phase, hit like to declare you're done being passive. Share in a comment a tough choice you made and how it changed you. To keep uncovering truths for a deeper, more intentional life, subscribe for the next parts. Sometimes you don't need a miracle, just the reminder that you always have a choice and the courage to own what you choose. Number 5, your feelings are caused by your thoughts. Most of us grow up believing emotions just happen to us. Someone says something unkind, we get angry. Something bad occurs, we feel sad. Someone praises us, we're happy. It seems emotions are direct results of events. But the truth is, events don't create feelings. Your thoughts about those events do. Emotions don't arise spontaneously. They stem from the interpretations, beliefs, and meanings you assign to experiences. Change your thoughts, and you change your feelings. This isn't empty rhetoric. It's a core Stoic principle and a foundation of modern psychology. Thousands of years ago, Stoics grasped that nothing is inherently good or bad until your mind labels it so. Marcus Aurelius wrote, if you're distressed, it's not because of what happened, but because you decided it's bad. Someone rejects your collaboration offer, and you think, I'm not good enough. Instantly, feelings of inadequacy, disappointment, or shame arise. But if you think, they don't align with my vision, I'll find someone else. You feel calm, even motivated. The event is the same, rejection, but the emotions differ entirely because of a different thought. When you believe others hurt you, you unknowingly hand them control over your emotions, reacting as if they can push your mood buttons. But you can choose to reinterpret events in ways that don't break you. If criticized, you might think, they hate me, I'm worthless. Or, they're projecting their insecurities, not mine. That choice steers you toward negativity or positivity. With practice, you can cultivate healthier, more empowering thoughts. This doesn't mean forcing fake optimism or denying pain. Emotions are real, and no one expects you to suppress them. But instead of being swept away, you can pause and ask, what thought triggered this feeling? Could I think differently? Is there a truer perspective? Simply asking reclaims your agency. Emotions, when viewed through reason, lose their power to overwhelm and become signals for self-understanding. This practice can feel tough at first because we're wired to react. Anger at insults, sadness at neglect, joy at praise. But with a moment's pause, you'll see, no one can trigger your emotions without your consent. By training yourself to question your thoughts, you'll view situations from multiple angles. You'll stop feeling like a victim of circumstances and become the architect of your inner state. A simple technique. When a negative emotion, anger, fear, jealousy, sadness, surges, pause for a few seconds and ask, what thought just caused this? Write it down if needed. Then ask, is there a more accurate way to think? Not to deceive yourself, but to choose a thought that fosters wiser, calmer responses. Do this daily, and you'll build a small gap between event and reaction, where true freedom lies. You may not change others, circumstances, or the past, but you can always change how you think about them. When you do, emotions become lighter, more manageable. You won't be caught in the sudden emotional waves or regret impulsive words or actions. You'll live more awake, more intentional, and thus happier. Not because life got easier, but because you've learned to think more deeply. If this makes you reflect on times you reacted due to mistaken thoughts or mislabeling, hit like to commit. I'll observe my thoughts more. Share a recent moment when you shifted your thinking and how it changed your emotions. To keep living with greater self-mastery through hard but liberating truths, subscribe for the journey ahead, uncovering realities that free the real you within. Number 6, if you don't learn to be accountable, you will be held accountable. One of the truths many dodge their entire lives is personal accountability. They avoid it with clever excuses. I had no choice. It's their fault. Circumstances forced me. But the reality is, if you don't learn to take responsibility for your life, life will hold you accountable in harsher ways. Dodging may feel good momentarily, but the long-term cost is stagnation, failure, pain, and loss of control. Life always balances the scales. If you're not ready to face the consequences of your actions, those consequences will arrive unannounced, and you'll have no say in how they hit. Taking responsibility doesn't mean blaming yourself for everything. It means being mature enough to face your actions, recognize the outcomes you're creating, and actively change if needed. Stoics believed one of humanity's highest qualities is self-reflection. Marcus Aurelius wrote daily in his journal, checking if he lived rightly, upheld principles, or acted kindly. No one supervised him. No one forced him. He knew if he didn't hold himself accountable, no one else could do it for him. When you blame others, you hand them control over your life. Saying, I can't do anything because my boss is awful, abandons your power to change. Claiming, I didn't pursue my dreams because my family didn't support me, puts your future in their hands. Live this way long enough and you lose your sense of agency. You feel dragged by life's currents, always a victim, always wronged. Yet the irony is, no one truly forces you as you think. You agree each time you choose silence. You choose to stay each time you don't leave. You delay your dreams each time you make excuses. If you don't stand up and say, this is my outcome and I'll improve it, consequences will hurt. Through a stalled career, fractured relationships, or declining health. You'll still pay a price, just not on your terms. Stoics call this inescapable responsibility. You may not like it, but you can't avoid it. The best approach is to embrace it early, take charge, and master the game instead of letting it master you. Accountable people aren't always right. They're the ones who admit when they're wrong, fix mistakes, and learn. They don't get defensive when criticized, argue over being called out, or blame others for failures. They ask, what did I do wrong? What can I learn? Can I do better next time? That's the mindset of someone who doesn't flee outcomes, but transforms them into lessons and stepping stones for growth. The problem is, today's culture often glorifies blame. Online communities might tell you, you don't need to change. The world's just too harsh. That feels good short-term, but weakens you long-term. Responsibility doesn't weigh you down. It's the first step to reclaiming power. When you say, I'm responsible for how I react, live, and the results I have, you're also saying, I can change all of it. Start small. Miss a deadline? Don't blame too much work. Admit you didn't manage time well. Struggling in a relationship? Don't just fault their indifference. Check if you've communicated clearly or stated your needs. Unhappy with your body? Don't excuse it with genetics. Examine your diet, sleep, or exercise. Each time you take responsibility, you step out of victimhood and into agency, where you can redesign your life with concrete actions. If this resonates as a needed wake-up call, hit like to commit. I'm accountable for what I create. Share in a comment a moment you blamed someone else, but later took responsibility and how it changed the outcome. To keep learning to live stronger, clearer, and more maturely, subscribe for the next parts. You can't control everything in life, but you can control yourself. And responsibility is where it all begins. Number 7, people want you to do well, but not better than them. One of the harder truths to hear, yet sadly accurate, is this. Most people want you to succeed, but only to a point they're comfortable with. They'll cheer you on when you're struggling, when you're like them, when you're ordinary. But when you surpass old limits, step beyond shared comfort zones, or dare to do what they won't, their support often fades, turns to silence, or even becomes criticism. Not because you've done wrong, but because your growth makes them uneasy about themselves. This may sound cynical, but it's a quiet social rule. People like you when you're predictable, relatable, and not too different. When you're failing like them, you're approachable. When you start improving, you're inspiring. But if you outshine them, living better, daring what they don't, or finding a calm they can't reach, you become unsettling. Your success mirrors their fears, procrastination, or inaction. Human instinct resists that reflection. Many of us have felt the sting of realizing a once supportive friend grows distant or envious. You share a small win, they stay quiet. You announce good news, they change the topic. You face hardship, they care. But when you overcome it and reach new heights, they pull away. This can leave you lonely, guilty for succeeding, or tempted to shrink to maintain harmony. But you don't owe anyone a smaller version of yourself to keep them comfortable. You're not obligated to slow down to match others' pace. You're allowed to move forward, to live your potential, even if it unsettles some. Stoics understood society's complex dynamics. They knew not everyone embraces difference. So they didn't live to please the crowd. They lived by their principles, even if it meant criticism, misunderstanding, or ostracism. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish." Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do what's right without needing approval. It's your task, not theirs." Living by reason and discipline, you may drift from those who once walked with you but aren't ready to continue. That's not betrayal, it's evolution. Don't resent them, don't belittle them, don't try to prove anything, just keep going. They're not bad, they're just not ready to face themselves. One day they might change, and you can welcome them back without bitterness. Until then, learn to proceed without their applause. If you rely on others' support, you'll never dare to stand out. And if you don't dare to stand out, you'll live within limits others set. A sign of maturity is letting go of the need to make others understand you. Each person has their own journey, pace, and readiness. Your progress isn't an insult to anyone. It's the result of your persistent choices and actions. You don't need to apologize for your commitment, for trading entertainment or gossip for work you believe in. If that costs some relationships, it may be the price of true growth. Yet stay humble. Success doesn't make you superior, nor does others' envy make you great. Stoics weren't arrogant about outpacing others, nor did they judge those unready. They focused on their own work, quietly, without fanfare or need for recognition. True light doesn't shout. It shines through consistency, perseverance, and living core values daily. If this resonates with what you're experiencing, hit like to affirm, "I won't shrink to make others comfortable." Share in a comment a moment you face this truth and how you kept moving forward. To continue growing inwardly with quiet strength and awareness, subscribe for the next parts, where you learn to be strong without applause and go far without needing anyone's hand. Number 8, there is no perfect time to do anything. One of the most common and subtle traps that keeps people from living fully is the belief that it's not the right time. Not yet time to start your dream project, speak your truth, change jobs, travel, love again, learn anew, or live authentically. Days turn into years with the hope that someday everything will align perfectly. Right moment, right mood, right finances, right people. But the truth is, there's no perfect time. There will never be an absolutely ideal moment to start anything meaningful. If you wait for flawless conditions, you may never begin. Feeling unready is universal. Before a big leap, we feel anxious, doubtful, or unconfident, normal reactions. The mistake is thinking this means you shouldn't act. Feeling unready isn't a signal to stop. It's a sign you're stepping out of your comfort zone. True growth begins there, when you do what you've never done, unsure, unpolished, or underprepared. You act because you know. Waiting for perfection keeps you stagnant. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that perfection is an illusion. He understood people don't act because everything's ideal, but because it's necessary. Stoics live by this. Do what's right, even if victory's uncertain. Act with reason, despite unclear outcomes. Don't wait for inspiration or perfect circumstances. Just rise and begin. Waiting saps your drive. Overthinking shrinks action. Eventually, "that's not yet" becomes a reflex excuse. I haven't started because it's not time. But what you lack isn't timing, it's resolve. You might imagine waking up one day brimming with confidence, everything in place, ready to tackle your long-held goal. That day won't come unless you create it. Life doesn't align itself for you. You must act first, only to find things aren't as perfect as you dreamed or as dire as you feared. Action breeds readiness, not the other way around. You don't gain confidence, then act. You act and grow confident. You don't wait for full expertise to move. You move, and the journey teaches you. Successful people don't have perfect timing. They start amid messiness. They know life doesn't wait. They seize opportunities, take small steps, and those steps unlock more doors. Those who wait for the right moment stay trapped in repetitive days, with growing to-do lists but no beginnings. A simple practice. Pick one thing you've delayed too long: learning a skill, sending an apology email, drafting a resignation, starting exercise, and do it within 24 hours. Don't wait for inspiration. Don't overplan. Take one small step. Send a message. Write 5 lines. Jog 10 minutes. Small actions build momentum for bigger ones. With enough repetition, you'll see readiness isn't something you await. It's something you forge through action. There's no perfect time to live authentically or start changing. There's only today, the only day you truly hold. If you don't act now, you'll say tomorrow, then next week, then next year, and look back to find yourself unmoved. Meanwhile, someone less talented, with fewer resources, started and is now far ahead. Not because they're better, but because they dared to act without certainty. If this feels like the wake-up call you needed, hit like to affirm, "I won't wait anymore." Share in a comment something you're postponing and what you commit to doing in the next 24 hours. To keep living proactively, consciously, and true to what you believe, subscribe to join me for the next steps. Imperfect but real and steadfast. Number 9, someone always has it better or worse than you. One of the most common human habits today is comparison. We compare everything: careers, incomes, looks, relationships, follower counts, travel frequency, fame, or the pace of success. Each time we scroll through social media, we're bombarded with curated glimpses of others' perfect lives, carefully selected moments, timed smiles, or subtle boasts woven into everyday stories. Measuring these against our messy, pressure-filled reality often leaves us feeling inferior, like failures, or even meaningless. But the truth is, there's always someone better off than you, and always someone worse off. If you let your worth rise or fall on this invisible leaderboard, you'll never find peace in your own life. Stoics understood this clearly. They didn't care where others stood, what they did, or what they achieved. Their sole focus was, am I living better today than yesterday? That's the only standard they chased. You can't control others or know their full story, so comparing only pulls you off your own center. Epictetus said a person training shouldn't glance at others on the track, but focus on their own steps. Look left or right while running, and you'll stumble. Comparison traps you in a race you didn't sign up for. It pressures you to keep up, surpass one person, or not fall behind another. But you don't know their starting line, their sacrifices, their innate strengths, or their trade-offs. You don't see their 3 a.m. tears or private struggles. You see only their polished outside when what they choose to show. Then you use that edited image to gauge your own worth. That's unfair to them and to you. Conversely, looking down and seeing someone less fortunate might spark fleeting satisfaction or guilt. But if your contentment hinges on, "I'm better than them," it's fragile. Meeting someone smarter, richer, or more prominent shatters it, leaving you not enough. And if your gratitude stems from others' suffering, it's not true gratitude, just selfish comfort. Stoics didn't compare up or down. They focused inward. Am I living by my principles? Staying disciplined? Growing mentally? They didn't place themselves above or below anyone. Instead of comparing, practice self-observation. Compare today's you to yesterday's. That's the only comparison worth making. You don't need to be as skilled as someone else, just a bit better than you were. Not as attractive as them, just healthier than yesterday. Not as wealthy, just managing money better than last month. Shifting focus inward reduces pressure, envy, and inferiority while curbing arrogance and judgment. You live balanced and clear-headed. A practical exercise. Each day, write 3 things you're doing well, however small. Not to boast, but to remind yourself your journey is progressing. Don't note what others achieve. Note what you've done that you once hesitated, avoided, or didn't dare start. This builds self-acknowledgement without needing comparison to feel worthy. You'll find peace scrolling social media, passing more successful people, or facing praise that once unsettled you. If you catch yourself comparing too much, feeling drained by the need to outdo or not lose, hit like to pause and return to yourself. Share in a comment an area where you get caught in comparison and what you're doing to break free. To keep living at your own pace with greater self-respect and authenticity, subscribe for the next parts. Because life isn't a race, but a personal journey walked with honesty toward yourself. Number 10, fear will keep you from living. If there's one thing strong enough to hold you back, make you doubt yourself, reject opportunities, delay change, avoid action, and watch life pass with regret, it's fear, not tough circumstances, lack of skill, time, or money. The biggest chain is the nameless fear within, fear of failure, judgment, imperfection, humiliation, pain, or the inability to recover. Fear that if you try and fail, you'll have nothing left. So you stay still. But here's the thing, fear doesn't vanish by avoiding it. It grows stronger each time you shy away. Every time you delay because of fear, it gains ground, and your self-belief weakens. The more you dodge it, the more it controls you. Eventually, you live in a tiny comfort zone, not because life demands it, but because you've boxed yourself in. Ironically, you think you're safe, but you're just existing as an outdated version of yourself, too scared to touch anything new. Stoics didn't see fear as an enemy to destroy, but as a guide. If something scares you yet could foster growth, that's exactly what you should pursue. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Your greatest fear isn't out there. It's in the stories you tell yourself. You envision the worst-case scenario and believe it's certain. But if you write down, what's the worst that could happen? How likely is it? How would I cope? You'll see most fears lack substance. You fear failure but forget that not starting is the true failure. You fear rejection but overlook that not asking, applying, or pitching keeps your future shut. You fear judgment but forget others are as scared as you, too busy to judge as much as you think. You fear not being good enough, yet miss that no one starts great. Greatness comes from daring to act while still unpolished. Fear doesn't fade by waiting. It weakens only when you act. One small, trembling step beats staying frozen in safety. Courage isn't fear's absence. It's acting despite fear. Strangely, when you face what scares you, it's rarely as bad as imagined. Often what you fear most is what frees you most, if you're brave enough to confront it. You don't need grand gestures. Pick one fear that, if faced, would lighten your load. Send an email you've delayed for months. Call to apologize to someone you've avoided. Post your first piece sharing what you believe. Start your YouTube channel. Apply for a job you feel unqualified for. These small acts repeated build a new you, not fearless, but able to move forward despite fear. Try this. Write down 3 things you're avoiding out of fear. Pick the smallest and act on it within 48 hours. Don't wait for courage. Act while shaking. That action will spark the confidence you seek. Each time you overcome a fear, you grow stronger, not because the world changes, but because you've changed how you face it. If this hits a hidden truth you've buried, hit like to declare, I won't let fear rule my life anymore. Share in a comment of fear you want to conquer and the specific action you'll take soon. To keep living boldly, authentically, and true to yourself through tough but vital lessons, subscribe. Only by facing fear do you truly start living. Number 11, your expectations are what cause. Disappointment. Disappointment is one of the heaviest, most lingering emotions we face. It leaves you deflated, distrustful, discouraged, or even drained of motivation to keep trying. But if you trace its roots, you'll uncover an uncomfortable truth. Disappointment doesn't come from others or the world. It stems from your own expectations. Unmet, unrealistic, or unfair expectations you've set create the pain. By seeing and adjusting them, you can drastically reduce your suffering. We expect others to understand us without explanation, friends to support us unconditionally, kindness to guarantee good outcomes, partners to never change, or hard work to always be rewarded. But reality often diverges. People don't grasp your perspective because they're preoccupied. Friends have limits and their own struggles. Kindness doesn't shield you from loss or betrayal. Your efforts may go unnoticed, no matter how hard you try. When expectations clash with reality, you feel betrayed, yet no one truly betrayed you. You were clinging to an idealized script that never matched the real world. Stoics mastered letting go of expectations as a cornerstone of inner freedom. They didn't expect others to behave a certain way, but focused on themselves. Did I act rightly, fulfill my duties, stay composed? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Don't demand things happen as you wish, but learn to wish them as they are." This isn't resignation, it's wise acceptance. You can't control the world, but you can control how you engage with it. Lowering expectations doesn't make you cold, it makes you clear-eyed. You stop demanding others love you your way, forcing circumstances to fit your plans, believing carefulness prevents failure, or thinking righteousness spares you pain. Life doesn't follow your vision of perfection. It has its own rhythm, chaotic, surprising, painful, yet fair. The best response isn't control, but active, resilient adaptation. A practical exercise: when disappointment strikes, pause and ask, what was I expecting? Naming the expectation reveals why you hurt. Then ask, was it realistic? Within my control? Necessary for happiness? This clarity eases pressure. You'll adjust how you view others, no longer demanding their perfection, ideal responses, or that life rewards you by a fixed formula. Things lighten because you stop holding an unspoken contract with the world. I do this, so I deserve that. Instead of expecting, live by principles. Do what's right, not for guaranteed rewards, but because it's right. Be kind, not for reciprocation, but because kindness is part of you. Strive to improve daily, not for applause, but out of self-respect. This way, others' emotions don't sway you, their negativity doesn't wound as deeply, and unmet expectations don't make life feel unjust. You'll still feel sadness or pain, but you won't be crushed. You'll rise faster and keep living by what you believe, needing no one's validation. If this resonates with expectations you're holding too tightly, hit like to start freeing yourself. Share in a comment an expectation you once clung to, how you let it go, and how it eased your heart. To keep learning to live realistically without bitterness, calmly without apathy, and principled without expecting perfection, subscribe for the next parts. True happiness doesn't come from getting your way. It comes from knowing when to let go. Number 12, you live the life you create for yourself. At some point, you must stop blaming circumstances, complaining about what's missing, or waiting for rescue. The stark truth hits. The life you're living today is the sum of your choices, actions, thoughts, and beliefs built over years. It's not random. No one forced you into it. You shaped it bit by bit. If you're unhappy with it, complaining won't help. You must act. No one can live your life for you. No one but you owns its direction. Many feel like victims of circumstance, claiming no opportunities due to a poor hometown, no growth because of unsupportive families, no happiness after betrayal, or no chance for change because it's too late. These sound reasonable but move you nowhere. Truth is, everyone starts differently, some with advantages, others with more falls. Yet over time, your choices outweigh your starting point. You choose to rise or stay down, to learn to live or merely exist, to build something daily. That shapes your life's form. Stoics rejected whining, embracing action. They taught you can't control externals but fully control how you live within them. Epictetus, a slave with no wealth or power, lived free by refusing to let circumstances define his thoughts, feelings, or actions. He lived by principles without waiting for better days. The lesson: you don't need life to change first. Change how you live each day, even if conditions stay tough. You live the life you create. If you say, "I have no time," yet scroll your phone for hours, you're choosing this life. If you gripe about a dull job but don't learn new skills or seek opportunities, you're choosing to stall. If you keep entering toxic relationships without setting boundaries, you're sustaining your pain. Inaction is action. Not choosing is a choice. Each day you coast on autopilot, you re-sign a contract with the life you claim to dislike. The beauty is, if you built this life, you can build a new one. You can't change everything overnight, but you can start small. Sleep earlier, write clear goals, say no when needed, read instead of scrolling news, jog instead of complaining. Each small, consistent act creates a new trajectory. A year, 5 years later, you'll live in a different world, not by luck, but because you laid each brick. You'll feel slow sometimes. You'll doubt if your efforts matter. You'll feel lonely when others don't get why you're changing. But if you know you're living truer, clearer, with more purpose, keep going. Don't live for approval, fear of missing out, or shoulds and musts. Live because you're responsible for this one life. You don't want to look back regretting, "If only I dared to live differently." A powerful practice, and weekly, ask, "What in my life reflects my beliefs and habits?" This reveals the link between your inner world and outer reality. You'll see that instead of seeking solutions out there, you must adjust within first. Each proactive choice, however small, writes your life's next chapter, not with words, but with clear action. If this resonates with your current reality, hit like to affirm, "I own my life." Share in a comment a small habit or action you're maintaining to craft a better version of your life. To keep learning to live boldly, intentionally, and deeply, avoiding a default existence, subscribe to Join Me, where you're not just fed theory, but reminded daily. You're the author of your life story. You've just navigated 12 tough but essential truths, vital for living a truly happy life, not the shallow, fleeting kind tied to circumstances, but a happiness rooted deep within. These truths may have jolted you or felt hard to accept at first. Yet if you face them head on, They become the foundation for personal freedom. You'll stop demanding others understand you, dodging responsibility, or waiting for the perfect moment. Instead, you'll start crafting a life that's awake, intentional, and profound. No one can live for you or learn your hard lessons in your place, but you're not alone. If this video touched a truth within you, hit like as a quiet pledge to yourself. I'm ready to grow for real. Share in a comment which of these 12 truths hit you hardest and what action you'll take after watching. If you haven't subscribed, hit that button now to stay with us for more, where you're reminded you don't need to be perfect, just authentic. One step each day, and you'll build a life you're proud of.